Have you ever had your water bill jump so high it made you wonder if you'd been secretly running a car wash in your driveway? That's exactly what happened in Willow Creek, a neighborhood that prided itself on its quiet streets and perfectly trimmed lawns. At first, residents thought it was a simple billing mistake. After all, how could families who use the same amount of water suddenly owe 3 times as much? But when the bills kept rising month after month, suspicions started to bubble, and what began as frustration over a few extra dollars soon uncovered one of the darkest HOA scandals the neighborhood had ever seen. Our story starts with Daniel Hayes, a 42-year-old IT consultant who had moved to Willow Creek 5 years earlier with his wife, Marissa, and their daughter. Daniel wasn't the type to pick fights. He kept to himself, paid his dues, and tried not to stir the pot. But one evening, while sorting through the mail, he froze. His water bill had climbed from the usual $85 to nearly $260. He stared at the paper, certain he was reading it wrong. "Marissa," he called into the kitchen, "did you leave the sprinklers on all week or something?" She shook her head. "No, I actually cut them back because of the drought notice." It didn't add up. That same week, Daniel learned from his neighbor, Mrs. Kim, that her bill had jumped to nearly $400. Across the street, the Carters complained that their teenagers weren't even home most of the month, yet their bill had skyrocketed too. At the next HOA meeting, the clubhouse was packed. People clutched their bills in hand, voices rising as one homeowner after another demanded answers. On the stage, Patricia Holloway, the HOA president, maintained her trademark calm smile. With her neatly pressed blazer and pearl necklace, she looked like she had rehearsed her speech. "Residents, I understand your concerns," Patricia said, tapping her notes. "But water rates have increased across the county. This is not unique to Willow Creek." Daniel frowned. He had checked the county website himself. Rates had gone up, but only by a fraction. Nothing explained the sudden tripling. Still, Patricia shut the conversation down with her practiced tone. "It's unfortunate, but these are the costs of living in a growing community." Meeting adjourned. The murmurs of frustration filled the room, but no one dared to challenge her further. Not yet. But Daniel couldn't let it go. Something was wrong, and his gut told him this wasn't just about water usage. Daniel spent the next week quietly investigating. He compared water bills from neighbors, making a spreadsheet that revealed a disturbing pattern. Every single household had increased charges that didn't match their actual usage. The amounts were suspiciously uniform, as if an extra fee had been added across the board. One night, after putting his daughter to bed, Daniel stayed up scrolling through public county records. He pulled up Willow Creek's water supplier contract, at least the last publicly available one. It was 3 years old, with rates nowhere near what they were being charged. "Where's the new one?" he muttered to himself. Curiosity turned to determination. At the next HOA meeting, while most residents left after voicing complaints, Daniel lingered. He noticed that the board members, including Patricia, shuffled papers into a locked filing cabinet in the clubhouse office. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept replaying it in his head. Why keep those documents locked away if everything was above board? The following Saturday, while the neighborhood bustled with kids playing and lawnmowers humming, Daniel walked to the clubhouse under the guise of checking the gym. He carried a spare set of keys. His volunteer stint on the maintenance committee years ago had left him with a copy Patricia probably forgot about. Inside, the office smelled faintly of coffee and dust. His heart pounded as he approached the locked cabinet. He pulled the key ring from his pocket, fumbling slightly before one slid in. The lock clicked open. Inside were folders labeled contracts, board minutes, and utility agreements. Daniel's hands shook as he pulled out a thick file marked Water Management Deal, Confidential. He opened it and scanned the first page, and his blood ran cold. The HOA had signed an exclusive contract with a private water management company, bypassing the county supplier. The terms were outrageous. The company charged inflated rates with an additional administrative fee funneled directly back to the HOA board under the guise of community improvements. Daniel flipped through pages of signatures. Patricia's name was front and center, alongside the treasurer's. Buried in the fine print was a clause that made the deal nearly impossible to cancel without massive penalties. This is extortion, Daniel whispered. He stuffed copies into his backpack and locked everything back before leaving the clubhouse, his pulse racing. For the first time, Daniel realized Willow Creek wasn't just being overcharged, it was being scammed by the very people meant to protect it. Daniel knew he couldn't stay quiet. At the next HOA meeting, he stood up before Patricia could begin her polished speech. "I have something to share," he announced, holding up the copies. The room grew still. He laid the documents on the table for everyone to see. "These are the contracts your HOA board signed. They cut a private deal with a water company that charges triple the rates, and the extra money, it's being funneled back to the board as administrative fees. That's why our bills are through the roof." The room erupted. Homeowners crowded forward, snatching up copies, voices rising in anger. Patricia's face went pale for a split second before she regained her composure. "This is a gross misinterpretation," she said sharply. "These documents are confidential for a reason. We made this deal to secure reliable water for the community. The county system was unstable, and this was the only viable option." "Unstable?" Daniel shot back. "The county system is working just fine. You sold us out for profit." The treasurer, a nervous man named Carl, stammered, "We did it for the community. We needed the funds for clubhouse renovations." "Renovations?" Mrs. Kim shouted from the back. "You mean the new pool furniture you ordered without asking us? The ones delivered straight to your backyard before anyone else saw them?" The room boiled with fury, but Patricia slammed her gavel. "Enough. These baseless accusations end now. Daniel Hayes, you are in violation of HOA confidentiality rules. You had no right to access those files. You could be fined or worse." The threat hung heavy. Some residents faltered, afraid of retaliation. Patricia's grip on power was built on fear, fines, threats, even liens against homes. But Daniel wasn't backing down. "Fine me all you want, but the truth is out. And if you try to cover this up, I'll take it to the county, to the press, to anyone who will listen." For the first time, Patricia's smile cracked. Word spread like wildfire through Willow Creek. Copies of the contract circulated online, homeowners whispered about lawsuits, and whispers turned into calls for Patricia's resignation. But the HOA board fought back. Within days, Daniel received a notice in the mail, a $1,200 fine for unauthorized access to HOA property and distribution of confidential documents. Marissa was worried. "What if they try to put a lien on the house?" she asked, her voice tight with fear. Daniel squeezed her hand. "That's exactly what they want, to scare us. But if we stay quiet, they'll keep bleeding this neighborhood dry." Together, Daniel and a group of neighbors formed a committee, an unofficial one, called Residents for Transparency. They held meetings in garages and living rooms, gathering signatures to demand a special election to remove the board. Patricia tried everything to stop them. She sent threatening letters, accused Daniel of harassment, and even called the police once, claiming the residents' gathering was disturbing the peace. But the tide had turned. Too many people were angry, too many had seen the evidence. Finally, the residents gathered for a vote in the clubhouse. The atmosphere was electric, with neighbors crammed shoulder to shoulder. Patricia stood at the front, her smile forced, her pearls gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "You're making a mistake," she warned. "Do you really think you can run this community without us?" Daniel stepped forward, voice steady. "We can't afford not to. You betrayed us, you profited off our bills, and now it's time for you to go." Ballots were cast, and when the results came in, the board was ousted in a landslide. Patricia stormed out, her heels clicking furiously against the tile, while residents cheered. The new leadership immediately began the process of canceling the shady contract and negotiating directly with the county again. It wouldn't be easy. There were penalties to fight, but at least the truth was no longer hidden. As Daniel walked home that night, his daughter ran up to him, clutching his hand. "Does this mean our water will be normal again, Dad?" He smiled. Not right away, but it means the neighborhood is finally ours again. And in Willow Creek, people finally learn that sometimes the biggest thieves aren't strangers breaking in. They're the ones sitting at the head of the HOA table.